computer. All right. So that takes the place of our meeting minutes. I will say, I was actually trying to do a bit of a draft document last time from the last meeting, just so I have a little bit of a paper copy. And there were 31 views. So I was like, oh, wow, 31 people watched the last tier two. It turned out I was 29 of them. So I was a little disappointed. I think Sarah might have been one of the other ones or something from CMAP. So there were not very many external views. Let's just leave it at that. So while we're being recorded, I will say it's a forest in the tree kind of scenario here. If nobody hears you, does the tree make a sound kind of thing?
So these are posted online
It's posted on YouTube. It's a
for
YouTube
public consumption?
video. For public consumption. It is
We got to be on our
out
best
there.
behavior then.
Whether the public consumes or not is a matter of debate, but it is available for consumption.
So you're not doing like an AI transcription or anything?
I did try to do that. It turns out that this kind of conversation doesn't translate well in AI, so it actually makes it worse.
I was going to say
Leave it at
that
that.
that's my experience.
Yes. So AI and conformity and air quality do not seem to be a good mix at the moment. Perhaps AI versions in the future will be better, but we'll leave it at that. So let's do this. Let's go around. I'll try to ask folks to just kind of identify themselves and where they're from. Since we are on Zoom and most of us can't see each other unless we turn our cameras on. Let's start with the folks who are on the Interagency Consultation Committee. So Jason, we'll start with you. You just want to introduce yourself? Think.
Yes.
Yeah, there we
I'll
go.
try to find my mute. Jason Lang, Sustainability Specialist at IDOT Bureau Planning.
Okay, John Paul.
Good morning, John Paul Deepla, Metropolitan Planning Specialist with Federal Highway Administration, Illinois Division.
And I don't believe Taylor Peters is joining us, although he was sent an invite. Michael Leslie.
Michael Leslie, USCPA Region 5.
Okay, and I do not see Mark Kanon. So, and Mark Pitstick already let me know that he would be absent today. He's on vacation. Matt Harrell from IEPA.
I don't know if Matt's on today.
No, he's on. I see
Oh,
him.
oh, maybe he's just having microphone
Well,
problem.
Rory, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll see if Matt unmutes himself.
Okay, I'm Rory Davis with the Illinois EPA in the Regulatory Development Unit in the Air Quality Planning section.
And then Matt, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I didn't realize my laptop had a built-in microphone. Matthew Harrell with Air Quality Planning Section, Springfield.
Okay. I'm not going to go through I'm not going to have people introduce themselves from CMAP. So I'll just go through the list. We have Sarah Stolpe. We have Amy Lee. We have Craig Heather, Jennifer Miller, Doug Ferguson, Mitch Hurst, Nora Beck, Ryan Tomko. Who else we got? Terry Dixon, UZ, Kama Dobbs, and we have myself, Russell Petrovic, who's also the member for this committee. We also have some guests. So let's see, we'll go to the top here. Mr. Dr. Ben Sperry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello from Springfield, Ben Sperry, Bureau of Design and Environment, IDOT, Central Office, Noise and Air Quality Specialist, primarily operating in the Phase 1 realm. Thank you. Happy Friday to everyone who celebrates.
Oh, Lord. I also miss Carly from CMAP. Don't want to miss Carly. Megan, would you like to introduce yourself? Now everybody might know who you are.
Sure. We match, Ben, by the way, Red Tank Top Friday. I am Megan Swanson. I am Senior Metro Program Planning Manager, sorry. And I, believe it or not, I'm just here for fun. I just want to know more about what these meetings are like and what you guys are doing.
You may want to work on what you think fun is. Okay. Let's see, who do we got next? Mr. Jansen, Mark Jansen, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Mark Jansen from Lake Michigan Area Directors. I do emissions modeling for them.
Excellent. Scott Weber?
Hi, I'm Scott Weber. I'm a data planner in transportation modeling analytics at Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. Just a guest here, and I've participated in the past. So,
Okay, excellent. And then we have two more from IDOT. We have Sophie.
Sophie Blumenstein, emissions modeler at IDOT.
And Shen?
Hi, this is Shen Chen from IRAT. I work with Sophie. Thank you.
And did I miss anybody? I think that's everybody. If I missed somebody, please speak now so that folks know who you are. Okay. Excellent. All right. That's item one, welcome and introductions. So we're going to go right into it. The II 2050 conformity amendment is out for public comment right now. You can click on the link if you wanted to see it. We don't have that many projects on the current conformity amendment, but we did have a few, and we hope to, the plan is once the public comment closes, it'll go to the Transportation Committee for a recommendation for approval. That is at our May 30th meeting. And then that'll go for recommendation to approval to the MPO, and they will take that under consideration and hopefully approve it at the June MPO meeting. There was nothing in this conformity amendment from the projects that were in there that was controversial or anything of that nature. However, what we did do is we have done something that we haven't done in the past. So the conformity amendments themselves are always formal, what we call a formal tip amendment. What we introduced this time is administrative tip amendment too. So basically how it works is we have a bunch of projects in the tip that do not go through conformity, but that we like to gather information on them. And I see that there's a typo there. That did not go through conformity, but that have information on them that help with our modeling and help keep the network model up to date. We call those exempt tested projects. So often those are projects that change lane widths, for instance. They go from a 12-foot typical to an 11-foot or something of that nature. We also have that for road diets that are being done for safety reasons. So the way that it used to work in the past is that information wouldn't be reflected in our model until we did the next conformity, because those changes would be basically capturing everything from the last conformity to the current conformity. We would capture that twice a year. So we'd always have basically a 6-month lag in the exempt tested project information getting into our model. By doing the administrative conformity amendment, we were able to make changes that only relate to the modeling information for those projects, close that amendment, and then run, we have a script that we run on the transportation projects in the tip, and we can extract all that information to then import it into our travel demand model. So in effect, we were getting the most current information from the tip to run our conformity analysis and update our networks in the model. So rather than having some of the projects kind of from 6 months ago and some of them that have made changes not being adequately represented in the tip. So this is a way for us to keep the tip and modeling information and the model, the transportation network, the master highway network that we use for doing transportation modeling as current as we possibly can. We did wind up having, I can't remember the exact number, maybe 20 or some projects that were on that administrative modification. It's also a way for us to clean up some stuff. There could be typos, there could be some sort of goofiness that we just need to clean up, and we don't need to necessarily put it on the formal conformity amendment and have it go out for public comment when it's really just a technical correction. So I think that worked really well, and we will continue to use this administrative conformity amendment along with the traditional formal conformity amendment that goes out for public comment going forward, unless we hear differently. But we do want to let everybody know that that's one of the changes in our conformity modeling process, is that we are keeping our networks up to date, or more up to date, more currently than we had been in the past, through an administrative amendment. Are there any questions on that or any questions on the conformity amendment itself? And I would say the conformity amendment itself, try to one of the things that we did, and you can click on the link if you want to, but one of the things that we did on this particular conformity amendment that is also a change is we are only showing the results for what we're required to show the results, which is the ozone precursors, VOC and NOx. In the past, we used to have PM 2.5 and GHGs as informational items. To be honest, they lack context. We had an old PM 2.5 budget that we would show with it, but we've never had a GHG budget. So we would put those numbers out there and they really didn't have any meaning. They were informational, but unless we wanted to actually do something that showed trend lines or something like that, which we're not looking to do right now, it really didn't have any context. So we don't have those on our conformity amendment that goes out for public comment, just the ozone precursors relative to what our budget numbers are. And we would not put a conformity amendment out for public comment unless we made our budget. So we did make our budget once again. We're actually, for 2025 is always our tightest one. So we're at 50.6 for VOCs and our budget is 60.13. And for NOx for 2025, we're at 125. This is tons per day for a summer day in July, and our budget is 150 for 2025. Now that budget does shrink to 110 in 2035, but our estimated NOx emissions shrink to 49.45 in 2035. So we're not really close to our budgets at the moment. Now, when we get to later items in the agenda and we have to think about redoing our budgets, we do have a little bit of room, but we can discuss that if we need to at that time. But right now, we are conforming. The projects in the tip are conforming, as is our long-range plan, based on what we show in this conformity amendment. So are there any questions about the conformity amendment? Okay, I am not seeing any. No hands are raised. Nobody unmuted. Okay. Moving forward, let's get more to the meat of these things. All right, next is the second. So item 3 is the moves modeling updates. So currently we are using, and we did for the conformity amendment, we used moves 4. So we've been doing a variety of updates to use moves 4. We are mainly focused on the AVFT file and some of the vehicle and electric vehicle kind of mix of that going forward. We've been working through that. Some of the staff, Mitch and UZ in particular, have been looking at how do we project EV adoption for both passenger cars and for non-passenger cars going forward. The AVFT tool allows us to do that in Moose 4 in a way that we couldn't do that in the past. So that's something that we were able to incorporate when we're doing conformity now. It's probably something that we have to continue to revisit and update. That right now, our current base year population for vehicles for both source type ID and age distribution is the 2022 vehicle registration file that we have for the Illinois Secretary of State. We have just gotten word that the 2025 vehicle registration file from the Illinois Secretary of State is ready for CMAP to download. We will hopefully be doing that today and then putting that through our process of VIN decoder and processing that and then doing some QC on the information that we got. And we hope to have something that we can share with both IDOT and Illinois EPA in a few short weeks, maybe even sooner if everything works out okay. Other updates that we've made, every time we run the travel demand model, we get new outputs for speed, for VMT, for road type, things of that nature. But otherwise, we have kept it pretty much the same as we have kept it in the past. What we're going to need to do when we go to Moose 5, and that's the next item on the agenda, is coordinate with Illinois EPA on some of the moves inputs that either come from Illinois EPA and or that we would use for defaults such as meteorology, the inspection maintenance program, things of that nature. Our plan, as I kind of combine these two items here, our plan is to start doing some testing of Moves 5 over the summer. We haven't made a decision if we're going to use Moves 5 for the next time that we do conformity, which is in the fall. It does have some regulatory things that are baked into Moose 5 that are under review. And so we probably want to take a little cautious approach to moving to Moose 5 to see if some of those items stick. I don't know if Michael Leslie, if you have anything that you'd like to add about when we should be considering moving to Moose 5, other than what's been published in the regulatory guidance, which I think gives us 2 years since December.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of time.
Yeah, I think, it's important for the SIP development. They'll be using, you'll need to use Moose 5 for that SIP, but as far as conformity goes, you have some time.
And so I would assume that if we took a more cautious approach, so what we typically do is we want to adopt the next moves model long before the deadline to actually use it. I think last time we did it within 18 months. This time we technically could probably have done it for the fall. Maybe we take a little bit more time and we wait at least a year to do it. Is there any reason for us to move forward with using Moves 5 sooner, or is taking a cautious approach okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. In Illinois EPA, do you guys have any problems with CMAP sticking with Moose 4 for the time being?
I don't know. We were just discussing that. I didn't know when there was going to be any kind of effort for a move to 5, but we were just discussing whether we could use previous modeling that was done for our moderate. I don't know that we'll be able to do that. But no, I don't think I have any problem with sticking with 4.
So
I think you can keep in mind that there were, a number of modifications where they improved a bunch of things to take the step to Moves 5. And the control scenarios that you're talking about that I think are under review all happen post 2026. So like in Ladco's case, we can move to Moves 5 and get all that positive stuff without actually getting the impact of any of those control measures that may be on their way out. So I think you're fine up to 2026. I think if you move beyond 2026 and into later years, you're going to have problems with those rules. So I think for us, we were moving to Moves 5.
Yeah, so we're modeling out
NEI is moving to Moves 5, but we're not modeling past 2026 right now.
Yeah, we're modeling out to 2050, and 2035, 2040, and 2050 are years that we model, so that low NOx rule and some of the other stuff that's baked into Moose 5, it really does have an impact on some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the issue, Russell, I think the approach is okay. As Mark said, the main benefits are going to be down the line, and we'll just fix it if we have to later.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to say about our process? So what we're going to do is spend the summer testing Moose 5. What we need to do is work with Illinois EPA to update some of those other files, not the ones that come from the travel demand model or that deal with the vehicle registration, any of that vehicle fleet data, but some of the other ones. Illinois EPA, do you have your own meteorology and IM files, or are you using Moose defaults? And if so, which model are you guys using?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not going to be doing that. It's
You want
generally
me to follow up with Stephen King?
Yeah, it'll be Steve. I don't know what we have done in the past. I think it's been defaults, and I know we're going to have better fleet information now. But yeah, I think for the other stuff, he has been using.
So back in the day, Buzz used to send me an IM file and a meteorology file. I don't think he used defaults for the IM. I don't know what he did for meteorology. I would be shocked if he had his own way of doing meteorology, but buzz is buzz. So
Yeah. Now that you're saying that, I do know we have some kind of customizable IM files where I think they were using zip codes and to capture some of the little cutouts on the counties um, to figure
because
out.
the compliance rates are the big deal, right?
I think so. Yeah, and I think yeah, I don't know exactly what they were doing to kind of simulate the cutouts on those counties if they were setting the compliance rates in those counties to lower or if they were trying to geographically capture something. But that probably would not be a default.
And then we'll need to coordinate on the AVFT file and some of the fuels. I don't believe that any of the fuels for our region have changed for a long time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But the AVFT file is something that can be altered. It's something that CMAP's been looking at doing for future projections for EVs in particular. That's something we may have to revisit and dial back a little bit from our previous assumptions on adoption rates. But maybe that's something we should talk more about and coordinate a little bit about how EV adoption rates and EV percentages of fleets or even just alternative fuels in general, whether it's compressed natural gas or other stuff, how that plays into future fleet mixtures.
Okay. And I was just thinking though, I did say it'd be Steve. If I had to guess, it probably would be for our series, but I actually am trying to take some things away from him. And I know that our modeling section in-house here, that sits just down across the row, uh, several of them, several of them went for moves training, and I do think there's one or two that I might talk to our modeling supervisor about saying we really ought to have a backup plan. Steve's been around a while, so I don't know when he's going to be on the way out, but he's also got a whole other job that this is kind of
He
once.
did contact me on vehicle fleet information yesterday, so
Yeah, okay.
that was
Well,
good.
right. So it's one of those things where it'd be helpful if he is going to do it. I'm going to make sure that a couple people are. He's up in Des Plaines, and
Yeah.
uh, so it's kind of intermittent. I call Steve, and he
So
probably
let's do this,
my
Rory.
number.
Why don't you guys think about who might be involved? At CMAP, we have Carly, Mitch, you, myself. We have four of us that can run moves and that are involved in different levels of developing the inputs and things of that nature. Maybe we set up a meeting. Your modelers could talk to our modelers, and we can maybe coordinate a little bit. We do have that modeling group, that informal group. I'm assuming some of them are part of that informal conversation that we have about modeling issues, just in general.
Okay, yeah, and it may just be one. I know that Dave
Okay.
Mihal here sits on the moves calls. So
So
I kept.
what I want to do is at the next time that we have this tier two is that I want to send out all the inputs that we use for moves to everybody and say that this is what we're using, this is what you're using, this is where they're the same, this is where they're different, and if they're different, this is why. Typically the VMT will be a little different because different sources of that, but hopefully the vehicle information should be the same and most of the other inputs should be the same so that we're all using that. I know if you guys are modeling 2026, that's something we'll have to discuss too. We'll get that in the next item when we talk about ozone. Is that something that, Michael, I'm assuming that that's pretty much how we've always done it before. We just coordinate
Yeah.
our inputs, but
Yeah.
they've never been exactly the same. So, all right. So nobody has any issues with that approach then, I'm assuming. All good. All right. Any questions with CMAP doing a Moose 5, maybe not adopting it until this time next year, seeing how things play out on the regulatory front? I know there was an MJO Moose call yesterday, and some folks did bring up, can you model and use Moose and overwrite some of the stuff that maybe takes out some of the regulatory enhancements? And I think that there wasn't an endorsement of that approach. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's on the books till it's not on the books.
That's right. And there's been nothing proposed to change anything. There's just
No.
reconsideration.
Yep.
And as far as I know, and so let's finish with moves. I'll follow up with Rory. We'll set up a meeting between the two staffs on whoever's going to do this, whether it's just you and Steven and maybe one additional and our teams. And that way everybody is on the same page. You never know when someone's going to leave or not leave. But that way all of our bases are covered on just how we're doing this. Does that sound like a plan then, Rory? Okay. If there's nothing else for item 3, we're going to move on to item 4. So the moves model, the 2015 ozone NACS updates. So I'm going to turn that over to US EPA and Illinois EPA to give us updates, and then we'll CMAP will chime in after you guys take the lead on that.
Okay. So just yesterday we got our completeness letter from US EPA. So thanks again for that, Michael. We were kind of running pretty close to some sanctions that nobody really wanted to happen. So that was for the moderate. We've been bumped up. So our permit people are kind of getting hammered with all kinds of questions for what's going to happen with the serious. Our sources have about a year to get Title V permit if they're necessary. As far as our serious attainment demonstration, I've got Kyle Sotariva and Gosen Chen working on that right now. We were just discussing it yesterday, and kind of some of these topics I knew we were going to be going over today. So we are kind of awaiting some modeling from LADCO. They're hard at work at looking at what the differences we need to recognize between the serious and moderate demonstrations are. I know we need enhanced inspection and maintenance. We do currently have that kind of, and it's going to be we have it. We've had it in Chicago so in Chicago we've had enhanced maintenance. In St. Louis we've never had to, I guess, declare that we have enhanced maintenance, except we handle both areas the same. The plans are the same. I think we've had some efforts in our VIM program to kind of make sure that everything is up to snuff with the current guidance, because I think it's been a while since we've had to, take a look and maintain that we actually have enhanced up to the standards of, the current standards. So we think we're on track with that. And like I said, we need to have some discussions about what we're going to do in the modeling. I know last time we kind of modeled some out years and did some interpolations, and it's possible if we're sticking with moves 4 that we could use some of the same modeling, I think. But then again, I think we're going to want to update with our new Secretary of State information. So that was one thing I wanted to check with you, Russell, if you think that's probably something worth doing. I think it probably is if you agree. And I guess, yeah, I guess that's about it. Is we're kind of in the middle of trying to get our serious SIPs and maybe even get one in on time for once.
So when you're doing the serious non-attainment attainment demonstration, that's for 2026. You have to show attainment for 2026.
Yeah, that's the idea. The attainment date is in 2017, except the date is in August.
Oh, so that's the last full season then is 20.
Yeah.
So the last full ozone season, is going to be 2026, which is fast approaching. So we're kind of in that realm of modeling a year that's pretty close to where we're at, but it's kind of common.
Okay. Michael, what would you like to add?
No, I mean, they're on the hook to get something in the next 6-7 months. So we'll just have to coordinate as we're going forward to that date. Between
Which
LADCO.
moves model do they need to use for this?
They need to use Moves 5. So there's going to be a little disconnect between what LADCO is doing, what IEPA is doing, but they're close enough. So when they set up a budget, the budget's going to be a Moves 5 budget.
So the attainment demonstration, is that going to be what we use for developing a new budget?
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm going with using two different models and creating a budget with it's. That's
Yeah,
what.
So you're not gonna
LADCO
see, you're not gonna see this budget until next year, Russell. So
Okay,
in the
so then
near
we
term,
switched already by
yeah.
Okay, got it.
And we started modeling this stuff back in July of 2024. So it's a long process where we were modeling Moves 4 back last summer for the technical support document that we're going to hand to EPA or to Illinois EPA in July or August.
Okay, so the end result of the ozone attainment demonstration, it's not just that you're attaining the ozone, but that you have a new budget is the result. And that's the thing that's probably most germane to CMAP is the fact that we're going to have a new budget. What are the budget years going to be then? Because right now we do 2025, 2030, 35, 40, and 50.
Yeah, so it's going to set up a 2026 budget for you guys.
So we're going to have to now do conformity for 2026 because that's an attainment year.
Yep. Yeah, and the way we craft our discussion in the Federal Register, essentially the 2025 budget is in the 2023 for the moderate are just going to go away because we're going to have a sort of in between year.
But that budget though is also used for 2030.
Yep.
Okay, so this will also be our 2030 budget. What
Correct.
about the stuff that's 2035 and onward, which is from the 2008 ozone?
Yeah. I mean, that's a discussion point where we'll have to talk about relevance because these things are on the books until we say they're off the books. So it would make sense. It's like in a Federal Register, we would say yes, this area has a maintenance budget for 2008, but that is that protective of the standard, the 2015 standard, and I think we'd have to make an assessment for that.
All right. At what point do you think CMAP should start showing conformity for 2026? We do it twice a year. We do it this time, and we also do it in October.
You could do it this time and just, sort of like a
year from now.
Yeah.
So the next time we do conformity, we wouldn't need to do that in October, but at this time next year, likely.
Sure.
And then we would only be doing it for what, a year? Because 2026 would be over.
Yeah.
And then 2030 would be the first year we're modeling.
Yes.
Okay.
It was easier when we used to, designate out, but the bump up kind of changes the approach.
And we're early in the ozone season, so we really haven't had any violations that I'm aware of yet. I think we got close for one monitor one time. But if we're not making the 2015 ozone standards, we're still going to be on the track to get bumped. When's the next bump up? I guess that's how I should have phrased it.
The next bump up we would do it sometime in 2027.
And so that would be based on this year, last year, and next year's ozone.
Yeah.
And that would be, we're serious now, but is there a level of serious? Is there more than one serious level? I can't remember.
No. Then you'd go to severe.
Severe. Okay.
Which is 15 years.
On the bump up to serious, there is some additional requirements. I believe there's a VMT demonstration Is that
Yeah,
something to?
yeah, so that in our what we call the O3R3, it's the planning requirements rule. That isn't due until 2 years after the attainment demonstration. It's kind of a check on if the assumptions in the attainment demonstration were correct.
And who does that? Is that
The state's going to
OIK?
have to do. The state's the one who's on the hook, but they'd have to coordinate with to make sure that the
Because that's
the
part of the
number.
SIP, right?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
SIP. It's a SIP requirement.
Are there any other requirements or anything that being serious that the MPO or transportation conformity might have to do differently? I thought there was one other thing. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head now.
I
They're not going
can't
to do
think
any
of anything.
transportation control measures.
Yeah. But that would be a couple years from now.
So
Or a
the
couple
budget
years
is really
from
the only near-term thing in
for
roughly
sure.
2026.
Yep.
Rory, is there anything you see?
As far as measures, like I said, we will be required to double back and recheck our enhanced I&M. I think we are going to be stepping up. I can't be held to this or quoted on this, but I think we are going to be stepping up what they call the on-road monitoring, which can be, oh, I guess there's laser sensors you can have at off ramps and things like that, but there's also remote ODB2 sensing, and then there's just
So is this remote sensing then,
checkpoints.
basically?
Well, I think before it was kind of they were assuming checkpoints or pulling people over if they looked like they had issues and testing them on the side of the road. I don't think we're going to be doing any of that. But I do think we are going to have some kind of either remote sensing or you do some kind of there's some other things you can do during the testing. I We've got a contractor looking into it, so I do know we're going to be looking into really making sure we're up to snuff with all the guidance
And
for
is this
enhanced. So
considered part of the SIP?
it is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So this is a requirement in the enhanced IAM, statute. It's statutory language, and now we're trying to. That was written in the 1990, so we're trying to bring it up to the modern world, and I think states are trying to figure out what's going to pass muster for those requirements.
So are
I
there
mean,
examples where this happens we're not in California?
I think maybe Mark Jansen might know, but I think Colorado's got a program going.
That's what I was going to say. Colorado's got an active program,
Okay.
and Gary Bishop is helping them with that. So,
Right.
And Michael, I don't know if this is the appropriate form, but is that something we're going to have our VIM people kind of do a plan that's going to be approved as an element that would be maybe an attachment to our SIP or attainment?
Yeah, I would think, it would be, how are you addressing these elements as far as inspection maintenance? I think the performance standard modeling is a pretty low hurdle. It's the other parts of the VIM program that might be scrutinized more.
Yeah, so maybe
you will have to huddle and get Frank involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rory, how about this? Maybe that's something you can just keep us at CMAP in the loop on what you guys are doing. That's the kind of thing we'd probably want to inform the region that's going on, and this is why. Since we deal with a lot of the, transportation folks that are out here, they're probably the ones that would get questions from the public as to if something like this were to start to happen. So typically we want to prep them so that they know what to expect that's coming down the line. Not yet, but when you have a little bit more vetted and understanding of what it might entail, that's something we should keep in mind. Since we don't meet that often, we should probably think about maybe meeting to discuss this just outside of the meeting.
Yeah, and in the next month or two here, I think I'm going to be getting myself into the loop more So I'll know more when I talk to our various sections that are going to be responsible for turning these
Because I know I
things.
had talked to Mark Jansen and Zach at Latco maybe a year or so ago. We wanted to maybe do some piloting of some remote sensing just to try to capture either hotspots like near freight yards and or some of the interstate travel, and maybe put like license plate readers and stuff like that up on the interstates to have a better idea of how much truck traffic, for instance, is coming from out of state that we don't have in our model. But that's not what that's more of a research project. That's not any of the regulatory stuff that you would have to do. But is it similar?
Well, it's the difference between light duty and heavy duty, though. All of our stuff was going to be heavy duty, and this is all going to be light duty vehicle.
Okay.
And it's something that could result in major reductions that, would, I don't know what kind of measures or, programs we might come out of after that. But it is something that we might be incorporating in the SIP if,
I know at one time there was a discussion about an IM program for diesel.
well, that wouldn't be something not something we'd be doing, but or as far as that, if it were an EPA or US EPA requirement or SIP requirement, that would be something new, and that may be a heavy lift for them to get done.
Okay.
That's even a heavy lift for California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Is there anything else on the 2015 ozone that we need to cover today, or have we covered all the bases? Anything coming up, Michael, that we need to be aware of in terms of Federal Register stuff and deadlines?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Excellent. And Rory, you guys don't have anything out for public comment or anything coming up for the 2015 ozone?
No, we did new NOx rack rules for stationary sources that got adopted, and basically just last month that were adopted and published by Secretary of State just in time for us to get what we needed off to US EPA before we faced sanctions. So we do have stationary sources. So when it goes serious, for stationary sources, the thresholds for the sources that have to have NOx racked at their facility is for moderates 100, for serious it's 50. But in our moderate submission, so in the most recent rules we got adopted, we just went to 50 early. So we are going to have those sources subject anyway when we did our serious racked. So we just went ahead and ratcheted it up to 50 in this round. So we should be good to go, and sources in both areas we should be seeing some significant reductions, I think.
Good. All right. Are we good to move to PM 2.5, the unmentioned PM 2.5?
I have no real information on the reconsideration. You guys will probably know before me.
So this is one of those things where we just keep going along because this is the rule until it's not the rule.
Yeah.
And Illinois EPA, you guys submitted the non-attainment boundaries, correct?
Well, we have not.
Not okay.
We drafted a recommendation. It was due in February. Some states are holding off on doing recommendations because they think it might be. I don't know if they think if there is a reconsideration, they don't want to be pointed to and say, well, look, this state and this state and this state already said they recommend that these be non-attainment. That's not our position. But in our St. Louis area, we do have one little cutout of Baldwin in Randolph County for a power plant. And that county's legislator and the power plant people there said, you don't need us in here. There's the contributions are minute and they're coming from the wrong directions when you'd have high days and all this stuff. So And then the Sierra Club, who I believe is suing the Prairie State Power Plant down there, which is in Washington County, said, well, if you're going to do Baldwin, you probably ought to do Prairie State because it's much bigger. And it's not really that much further from the areas or the monitors. So we took another look. So that was one thing. It kind of helped. That was in our outreach. It kind of held up what we were doing. Kind of made sense for us to take another look. What I think where we're at now is we're going to take them both out because we did some preliminary modeling that showed that they really are minute uh, contributors that far out. So at least in the St. Louis area, that would kind of also put our ozone and PM non-attainment areas equivalent. Or sorry, the borders would be the same. So that's kind of been a holdup, and then that kind of has, getting comments from legislatures, industry, and Sierra Club kind of has raised some some concerns or cautiousness on the part of management. So I'm in the middle of today and hopefully done by next week getting. We're going to be amending what we had put out to outreach and basically giving reasonings and responses to all the comments we received to management. I'm not sure if we're going to be publishing those or if we're just going to send the recommendation, but then we may have another discussion over, well, that now that it's been a little bit, I think our management will probably want to know that some states are just holding off, but the plan was we were going to treat the deadlines for the recommendations, infrastructure SIPs. We were going to treat those deadlines as long as they were in play. We're just running a little late on the recommendation because we may make some changes based on comments.
But there's no changes that are being considered for Northeast Illinois.
Nope. The changes, yeah, right. So I think what I told you last time we discussed would still be operative, that it's going to be the
Same as
same
the ozone. Okay.
same boundaries as the ozone and same boundaries as the previous PM areas.
And Michael, if Illinois EPA sends you a non-attainment area for PM 2.5 for our area, are you guys actually reviewing them or are you just kind of collecting them?
I don't have a good answer for that right now.
Fair enough. Don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, I haven't seen anything with PM being approved. I've seen SIPs for ozone being approved, but PM doesn't seem to be something that's being approved at the same level of speed, so to speak, as ozone would be. Okay, so PM 2.5, there's nothing we need to do right now. It's wait and see. You guys are going to submit a non-attainment area at some point within the next couple weeks or a month or something like that. And then it'll be up to US EPA whatever the next steps are.
We should point out that EPA did not release a 2032 inventory in the latest round. So LADCO would not even be able to model. Our original modeling plan was that in early 2026, we would start modeling PM 2.5 for 2032, but we can't do that. There's no inventories available for 2032. So I don't know what that signals, but things will have to change if we can even model PM non-attainment.
Okay. And just to put a cap on this, basically there's nothing CMAP has to do right now for PM 2.5.
Nope.
Correct.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, anybody have any other questions? So Ben Sperry, I know you guys had talked about it, IDOT, maybe having to update the manual. I think that's nothing that doesn't need to be done at this time. I think it's going to take a couple years until anything were to develop, if there was going to be something that needs to be developed.
That's what it sounds like. A good thing that's the regular IDOT timetable, huh?
Slide it right in there in the 3 to 4 year window.
Yeah, just a couple of years. Just delete a few sentences and we'll be good. But yeah, watching closely for the reconsideration of the reconsideration.
All right. And we have no other standards that are being reconsidered right now. Is that fair to say, Michael? Just
That would impact you, yeah.
That would impact us. Okay. All right. Rory, did you have anything you wanted to add there or not?
I don't think so.
Okay. If not, we're going to move on to the regional capital projects. I'm just going to give a little overview here. So CMAP's in the process of updating or creating a new long-range transportation plan. As part of that plan, we have to identify what we currently call regionally significant projects, which is also a term that's used in conformity language. So in order to separate those two out, we've come up with a new term called regional capital projects. Many of these project types are the kind that affect capacity or have capacity impacts on our network. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, I don't know if it's Ryan or Jen, which one's taking the lead here, if you guys want to turn your camera on.
Taking this one.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
I've got some slides.
All right. Ooh, that's a lot of people.
All right, you can see my screen?
We can. Thank you.
Excellent. So as Russell mentioned, we have some changes
Jen,
to our
maybe
process.
before you get going, maybe you could just
Yeah.
introduce yourself and why you're presenting this or something, since folks may not know you.
Yes,
Great.
Jenny Miller, new to CMAP this year. I joined in June of last year, and I am taking the lead on our what was regionally significant projects, as Russell said, now regional capital projects task within the long range transportation plan, or as we're calling it, the regional transportation plan. So I'm sharing with you today the new items that we are doing with this task based on recommendations that we received from our partners and in our last certification review, and then also providing some updates on where we are in the timeline and where we are headed next. And I'll jump into it from there. We have a few new items to the process. One, Russell mentioned the new name. We're now calling it Regional Capital Projects to differentiate from air quality conformity, regionally significant projects. We have a new expanded definition, and I'll get into that in more detail in the next slide. And then also we are making an effort to prioritize the projects a little bit more. In the past, we've just had a fiscally constrained and fiscally unconstrained list as a result of this process. Based on recommendations that we received, we are going to try to have within both the constrained and the unconstrained list priority tiers or groups of projects to identify what are the top priorities from the region, and then also within the unconstrained list, what are the projects that are unconstrained because of fiscal limitations that we would move into first if funding becomes available versus the more illustrative projects that aren't ready to be receive funding anyways. And then on the next slide. So talking a little more about our change to the definition. In the past, we included state of good repair projects that were $250 million or more in total cost, and then capacity changes to the network that were $100 million or more in total cost. We've expanded the definition to include not just state of good repair, but other projects such as an interchange or intersection improvement that costs $250 million or more. So maybe they're not actually changing capacity, but it's a significant improvement in another way. Or like a grade separation isn't always considered a capacity change within our definition here, but would be captured in the $250 million or more bucket here. Then for capacity changes, instead of having it be a dollar amount, we're now capturing projects based on scope of the project. So for capacity changes on the national highway network that are of a mile or more, they would be included regardless of cost. Same for a fixed guideway transit network, and then also, which I think would be similar, new access points, regardless of cost to the National Highway Network would be included. So like a new interchange or a new ramp between roadways, that would be included. We also have a third category called sponsor nominated. This has in a sense been included in the past. We're just being more explicit, saying if there's a project that doesn't meet the definition, but that a sponsor or that CMAT feels should be included in the RCP list, we will take it under consideration and it has the potential to be included. I don't think we ended up with any projects within that category this time. I think everything has met the definition. There are a few projects, I guess, actually, I'll say from counties that are not on the National Highway Network that we are including in our review and considering, but have not made a decision on whether or not they'd be a regional capital project just yet. But they're new roadways. Just quick look at schedule. We have began collecting project information this winter, sent out a call or request for projects in February. We now have all of our projects collected. We're still collecting some details or information about what the projects will achieve, and then beginning to evaluate those projects, which will go through this summer. Once we've done that, we'll align our priority rankings with our financial plan and determine fiscal constraint and share that with our policy committee and board. And then in 2026, the projects will go for air quality conformity and the plan adoption in October of 2026. That is just a quick look at the request for projects, which was sent out in February. We created a tool for submitters to use where they could draw their project on a map and provide us with all the information we would need. Not everyone used the tool. Some submitters, they had already given us a lot of the information for the project in the past because they were past RSPs and they didn't want to have to resubmit all that information. So we made use of information we already had. We also made use of information in our tip to collect projects. So we extracted from the tip projects that would meet our definition and then sent that spreadsheet list or whatever format we had to the project sponsors, letting them know we've identified this as a potential RCP and plan to kind of submit it for you and then ask questions with any other additional information that we would need to evaluate the projects and include them in the plan. So 160 projects were submitted for RCP review and consideration. We ended up making a total so far of 109 of them to actually be included as RCPs. They'll be evaluated and fiscally constrained. There's another 23 projects that are identified as RCPs, but they already have committed funds. So they're considered a committed RCP and will not need to be evaluated or prioritized as they're already, in many cases, underway and getting built. A few things to note here. So 58 of the projects are carryover projects from our previous long-range plan update in 2022. Some of them have slight changes, but overall, they're mostly very similar to what we've looked at before. 52 of the projects are new. Highlighted in blue here, I extracted numbers. Only about 11 of them, I would say, are new as a result of our change to our definition. So those are projects that are add lanes that are under $100 million. The Interstate one is on I-80. It's a flex lane addition. Right now, it's only estimated at like $30 million. I don't know if that cost will change, but so it would not have been included in the past. And then some arterial add lanes. There's one on Illinois 53 between Butterfield and Park Boulevard. It's about 1.3 miles in length and only $40 million. So again, a project that would not have been included in the past and is now included in our evaluation. We also got a little new, several more bus priority corridor type projects. So not exactly BRT, the 7 here were BRT projects. These are new bus priority corridor projects that I think would have met our past definition, but they're just new in that the submitters are providing these now within their plan. More that they have some more long range plans that they can provide details on for projects like that with specific corridors. And then the bottom category are the state of good repair or modernization projects. So I guess projects that would not necessarily impact air quality conformity, but will also be included in this process. A little different. And I know, Russell, you had noted how this would impact or any changes to air quality conformity. I think just that we're capturing some more projects within our longer range scope that are getting added earlier than I guess they might have before to our tip. And that's all I had. Any questions?
So just so folks are aware, and some of you guys have been here before when we did this, and some of you are new to this, the tier 2 interagency consultation process. A lot of what are the RCPs, as we call them, the regional capacity projects, capital projects, I guess is what it is, are projects that would go through conformity. There's always been a group of projects that are just the really expensive projects that are mainly replacements of existing infrastructure, rebuilding an expressway, something like that. Doesn't change capacity, doesn't go through conformity. Those are exempt work types. But the non-exempt work types, things like signal interconnects, I don't know I don't see that really on the list here, but there are other things that are now going to be considered regional capital projects that maybe in the past weren't. I think signal interconnects I think the threshold is $20 million. Those are an non-exempt work type. However, they go through the conformity process a little different in that they're allowed to continue on, and that we capture them the next time we do conformity. There are other things that go through the conformity process that were not previously considered regionally significant, but that might be now, particularly remove or add lanes on arterials that are on the NHS. IDOT sometimes has been taking out through lanes on some of on rare occasions, to put in bicycle accommodations or to address safety considerations. They've done this on a few projects. Those would go through conformity in the past, but they were not part of this regional RCP process. So that's something that's an addition. So there are more things in some that go through conformity that will be part of the RCP process than there had been in the past. And so there's more of a linkage between the regional capital projects and changes to the network capacity, which also are the same projects that we model for the conformity process. So if you had a Venn diagram, maybe, I don't know, 2/3 of the projects that were regionally significant projects were also going through the conformity process. Now it might be 75%. I don't know. I'm just making a number up. So more of the RCPs will be likely to be projects that also go through conformity than what we had been doing in the past. Because the past really had that $100 million threshold. And now we've gotten rid of the $100 million threshold. It's more about impacts on the network. And impacts on the network are typically your non-exempt projects. So I just want everybody to be clear that there will probably be more of an overlap between what we conform and what we consider regional capital project. Is that fair to say, Jen?
Yes, yeah, I think that's true. And right, the signal interconnect and lane removals are part of the definition. They're just not captured here because we didn't get any of those projects submitted. The lane removal projects have to have an ADT on the roadway of 25,000 or more. So right now, there are not any that meet that definition.
And so we'll still keep doing conformity for lane removals and stuff like that for non-NHS, but they would not, unless they were on the NHS and they met some of the ADT thresholds, would not be considered a regional capital project. So there is still a little bit of a difference between projects that have to be conformed. It's a larger universe than the RCP universe. All right. Are there any questions on this? This is your one chance because what the schedule is, the next time we meet will probably be in the fall, and by then this stuff will be pretty much nearing the end of its process by which changes could be made. So this is your chance to speak up. IDOT in particular, Ben or Sophie or Shen, if any of you guys have questions about how we're addressing capacity changes in the RCP process, now is a good time to speak up. All right, I'm not hearing anything. All right, going once, going twice. The gavel has been metaphorically sounded. All right, we will move on to the next item. I guess I should share my screen again. Hopefully I'm sharing the agenda again. So we just did regional capital projects, and now we're going to go to grade separations. All right, so we have an issue in the tip with grade separations and how we model those. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, then I'm going to have Craig join in the conversation. So basically, anything that's a grade separation is a non-exempt project that has to be conformed. A long time ago, I probably before my tenure even here, when my predecessor Ross was doing the interagency consultation process, a lot of grade separations, particularly the create ones, did not go through the conformity process, but instead were conformed, for lack of a better word, through the consultation process. The reality is that we don't have a way to model grade separations in which we can show anything that would change emissions, change really traffic for the most part. There are projects that are out there that are making claims. Ben knows that there's a project that I just asked for some emissions information on that say if they put in a grade separation, that it reduces emissions by, and they provide a number. I'm not exact. I have to go into that in more detail and look at that and see what their claims are and how they're coming up with that. But basically, it's by eliminating some delay. The assumption is that cars and trucks and stuff are not sitting there and generating emissions while they're sitting there, but they're doing free flow and they're able to continue on. The reality is that a grade separation does not really appear in our model network. So if you were to have a grade separation or not a grade separation, it doesn't really change how our travel model would capture that kind of behavior. So Craig, I think Craig's on here. He can elaborate on how our model handles grade separations or doesn't.
Yeah, doesn't is more accurate. Right. So the issue is we don't really have a good way to show the operational benefits of having a crossing grade separated. And we have part of the reason is because we have so many of them in the region. If we had, sort of good data on the actual average delay that drivers do experience at these crossings, that would be one way that we could sort of back into an operational improvement. But we don't have a comprehensive data set of the grade crossing delay to actually do anything like that. So as of right now, right, there's no benefit within the travel model itself of putting in a grade separation.
So we're required, because they're not exempt work types, to model grade separations. However, the model wouldn't do anything. We would be showing no change whatsoever. It's a bit of a paperwork exercise. So I think what I'd like to be able to do is go back and say that these things are conformed through the consultation process, as we did a long time ago, because we can't show a benefit. If we were to model the entire network as it exists today, and then just add onto that one, even whatever the largest grade separation is that we could come up with, it would show no change in emissions. It would probably show little to no change in ADTs or VMT. So what we're doing is by having projects that are grade separations go through the formal conformity process, they are being basically when a project goes through and is on the formal conformity amendment, it's basically held in limbo. It can't make any other changes for about a 3-month period of time from when they submit it to the amendment to when it gets approved by the MPO. What I would prefer to do is put these on the administrative amendment and flag it as conformed through consultation process. And we could put them on the memo that goes out for public comment as an informational addendum, so to speak, or attachment of some sort, so that the information is out there. But in terms of a modeling exercise, we're not modeling anything. So I don't know that putting these things through the formal conformity process is doing anything other than delaying that project and enabling and not enabling it to make other changes. So if something's on the conformity amendment, for instance, it's tied up and it can't make changes to cost. It can't make other changes to its schedule. It can't reprogram funds to different years or add funds until that conformity amendment has been approved. So this is what I wanted to bring up for folks to discuss and see how comfortable they are with CMAP using the consultation flag as a way to have grade separations go through the conformity process when we're not able to really do anything in terms of the modeling and the emissions benefit. And we could have 15 grade crossings, and those could be the only projects on the conformity amendment, and we would show no changes in emissions from the last time. I mean, unless the network changed outside of this. So what do folks think here? Specifically IDOT, it would be good to hear from you. So who do we have? So Jason, this would be something that would want to hear what IDOT thinks. Or Shen, if or how you guys model grade separations, if you somehow have a way to capture this information in a way we don't. I mean, reality, we'd have to know how many trains are going by and how many eliminated delays there would be. So we don't actually have that information in our network of how many trains are going by each crossing per day or something like that, or at what times, because I think the schedules are not consistent. So Jason, would you like to add, or Shen?
This is Shen. I just want to say for our statewide model, we didn't consider the grade separation, and I think we have very limited information on the train's schedule. So I'll leave this for Jason.
I was going to leave that for you, Shane. I don't know how it's incorporated. I mean, it's a pretty difficult thing because when trains are coming and going is just like an assumption, I guess. But I mean, I don't have an issue. I mean, as far as this approach, I mean, something that's you're not adding capacity or anything like that. You're just changing, how the traffic.
Yeah, if a grade separation were to add a lane, then it would go through conformity because of the add lanes component. But just basically taking something that was at grade crossing and now is a grade separation, we don't have a way to really show the benefits on this stuff. So John Paul from FHWA, do you guys have anything you'd like to say about this? I mean, you guys approve the tip at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think that the approach Russell outlined in terms of going through this process here at the Tier 2 consultation, documenting what that would be with regard to the draft amendments that are released, and just communicating this across the board, that would be sufficient.
Okay. So what we're going to do at CMAP then, unless we hear differently, we're going to put these things as the consultation flag, which is something that already exists in our E-tip as a way to show a project has been conformed. Today will be the date that we associate with that. So what is it, May 16th, May 25? I'll put something together in writing that I can share with the interagency consultation group that just kind of documents what it is that we're doing that we discussed. And then we can put grade separations on the conformity amendment as informational item only if they would typically have to go through conformity. But otherwise, we are not going to hold the projects on the conformity amendment themselves. All right. So going once, going twice. Sold. All right. This is one of those times where if there's no objection, we go forward. All right, we're nearing the end of our meeting. We're going to go to some agency updates on the CMAP side. So we have created a new program. I don't know if Amy's still on here. Is Amy gone already? Terry, I don't know if you want to speak to the new program. Amy's still here, yeah. Amy, do you want to speak to the emissions modeling program? Was it forecasting and analysis?
So at CMAP, we see that there's a growing interest in emissions forecasting and analysis, and a need to make sure, just like sort of indicated in the earlier part of the conversation today, a need to coordinate with how things are being modeled by different jurisdictions and entities. So we have formalized a new program around emissions forecasting and analysis. Russ, your very own Russ Petrowiak, is the program lead for that program area. So we hope that he'll continue to be sort of a good liaison to all of you in this endeavor.
So my takeaway is this, and for the group, is that CMAP is going to put a little more emphasis in this area and potentially a little bit more resources behind it. This is an area that we want to see done as well as we think it should be done. So we're going to prioritize it a little bit more than we had in the past. Is that fair to say?
You got it.
All right. So that's what's going on at CMAP. We already heard about how we're going to switch our process for going to Moves 5. Are there other Illinois EPA or IDOT or anybody else, US EPA? Would you guys like to provide any updates to work that you guys have going on that might be relevant?
I don't think I have much more that'd be relevant.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Anything to share?
And
Yeah, I don't think I have any other significant updates either for regulatory purposes.
Nothing, Sophie, come on.
We are beginning to quality check our Secretary of State data and are looking forward to collaborating with CMAP on that. We have received data from the Secretary of State, which is really exciting for 2019 through 2024. So we're hoping to produce an emissions trend line from that, as well as updating the emissions rates that are embedded in our travel demand model. But the data we received is different than what's on the Secretary of State's website. So we're trying to kind of parse through what's the most reliable way to go about this. So that's where we're at.
So one of the good things about the data that CMAP we're gonna try and download today for our vehicle registration file from the Illinois Secretary of State is A, it's for the whole state, and B, it's a multi-year agreement. So we should be able to get the same data, the same time every year going forward for a period of years. So that'll give us multiple data points. It should enable us to do more trend lines and do projections with the vehicles going forward in a more, I guess, defensible or robust way than what we can do when we're getting the data every few years. So that's hopeful, and then we will be sharing that vehicle information with Illinois EPA and with IDOT. So that's part of our agreement with the Illinois Secretary of State, is that we would share that information as not raw data, but as some that can be used for things like moves modeling and things of that nature. So, Sophie, yeah, you were on
Yeah.
mute.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Mr. Leslie, anything at Illinois, US EPA that you feel like sharing for the group?
No, not really.
But you're still there. That's a good thing.
I'm still here. Yes.
And everybody's return, and for you guys, you're all full-time in office now?
Yep. 5 days a week.
Fair enough. So, all right. There's nothing going on with I haven't heard anything in any grapevine or anything else that there's another moves in development. So moves 5 seems like the end of the line for a little while. Okay. Mark and Ladco, you guys got anything you want to share?
No, we're busy doing the future year modeling for 2026. Not so future year, but future year, and getting that TSD out, TS technical support document out in July.
Okay.
Which will show if we'll attain by next year, and I'm sure it will be perfect.
Absolutely. And Nora, I think Nora's still on here. Nora, are you still on here? Get participants. No, I think Nora dropped off. So CMAP did restart its climate action plan. I think Mitch, I don't know if you want to give a little 30-second blurb on what we're doing with that.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we restarted our cap. The deadline is unchanged, so that plan is still due 12/1 of this year. So coming up. But we have our initial modeling results, both for kind of a state and local scenario as well as a net zero scenario. And we are planning to share those with our stakeholder teams. So we have some sector teams as well as kind of a full plan team coming up in June. So that's where that's at.
Excellent. Anybody else want to give an update on anything that they're doing that might be related to emissions and conformity? I'm assuming no. Okay. No hands are up. Nobody's unmuting. Fair enough. All right. The next meeting is on call. It'll likely be in probably November. It could be earlier if something arises, but based on how we've been doing it, we typically have been doing this whenever we do conformity. Our next conformity is going to be done in late October, early November, and then public comment in November and early December. So that's likely when we'll have the next meeting. Again, if something were to change, we are on call. And if nothing else, it seems a little weird, but I'll talk to most of you guys I still talk to all the time. But if I don't talk to you, have a good summer.
You too.
Thanks, Russell.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Russell. You too.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Russell.
Sure thing.